screen starts glowing and the film starts rolling. You wanna be knowing what you might be in for. So give the show a listen and find out what you're missing. Put yourself in position for the easy good score.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to The Goods, a film podcast. This is episode 242, and I'm Brian. Danny with me?
Hey, Brian. I'm in my normal situation, but I gather something is different from normal for you.
Yes, so apologies for the inferior audio quality. Hopefully it won't be too much of a ding. I'm using my onboard Apple mic, my laptop, what do they call them? MacBook, because I am on the road. I'm traveling in Florida to visit my brother. We had a birthday party for my dad. And so kind of traveling all as a family unit. I'm sitting in a hotel room now here at like 9:30 at night, just because it's a quiet spot. And I could have brought the mic, but I have a history of if I travel with my mic, I tend to knock it over in the car or something. And so that back when we did Greatest Showman, which was a long time ago, I killed a mic in transit then. So now I'm more careful about it. So that hasn't happened since. Realistically, I should have done my due diligence to have it because we want to deliver the optimal experience to you, listener, but you're just going to have to get past it. You're going to have to accept that it is what it is. And so here we are. For the second week of a theme month, we're doing musical decades. And so, Dan, refresh our familiarity with the big picture, the rules that we're living by.
Yeah, maybe I should have called it dueling decades, musical dueling decades or something.
I like that. It's got a ring.
Okay. Uh, each week we're picking 2 decades from the 10 decades of the history of the talkie. So the 1930s through the 2020s. And each week we're picking 2 movies. And over the course of 5 weeks, we're going to discuss all 10 decades. So last week we discussed the 30s and the 50s. And we kind of did a overview of studio musicals. What are some of the approaches to making musicals cinematic early in the history of the musical? We had Hunter to join us on that one, and that was a lot of fun. And then today we are doing the 60s and 70s, Brian. I'm looking forward to this.
That's right. And the films in question are Mary Poppins from 1964 and Bedknobs and Broomsticks from 1971. So both Disney movies, and in fact, the connections between them are legion. They're just a lot of the same team between these 2 movies, and Bedknobs and Broomsticks is often regarded as sort of a spiritual successor to Mary Poppins, a follow-up. Some would say like a redheaded stepchild. A lot of people know Mary Poppins better than they know Bedknobs and Broomsticks, I would say. Mary Poppins casts a long shadow.
Yeah, Mary Poppins had like 13 Oscar nominations and won, I think, 3 of them or something like that. I don't know. I made up those numbers, but it was both a big hit in its time and it has endured as a beloved family film.
Yes. What was your past with these movies, Dan? These are both movies that, I watched growing up. But what about you?
I definitely watched Mary Poppins growing up. I really liked the animated section early on, or like the I guess the hybrid section, because that's one of the things that ties these 2 movies together is they both have sections where the human main characters go into an animated world. Again, the Mary Poppins one, I really enjoyed that part. And there were parts of the rest of it that like I kind of just remembered. It's a little bit like the Wizard of Oz, I kind of remember images and emotional responses to images. And then when I watch it all together, it's not that it feels smaller, but like something about just having fragments of it and through the kind of youthful lens of like when you're a kid, the boundaries between reality and imagination are a little bit blurry. And so it always felt so like expansive in my head. And that's not at all to diminish the experience of watching it as an adult, but it kind of left an impression on me. I wouldn't say it was particularly influential in what I ended up loving, that I watched a lot of and stuck with me and became favorites, but it's always one I had a soft spot for. It did leave an impression on me as a kid, whereas Bedknobs and Broomsticks, I had never seen before. I had only seen clips on YouTube that you had posted through the years, Brian. So I really only knew that it was going to climax in a scene that you were quite fond of. And spoiler alert, it lives up to the hype. It's a good one.
Okay, good. Yes. So, I mean, I watched both of these movies many times as a kid, but I liked Bedknobs and Broomsticks much more as a child. So, I want to dig into that. I want to go into this episode with that in mind and just dig into that and how have things changed perhaps over the years. We'll go chronologically. We'll talk Poppins and then we'll talk Broomsticks.
Talk Poppins.
Yes, talking Poppins. That's what we're doing tonight. Walt Disney was very invested in Mary Poppins. Really, really wanted to make a Mary Poppins movie. So this is an adaptation of a book by a British author. Her pen name was P.L. Travers. I think her actual name was Helen Goff, but published under P.L. Travers. And so the first Mary Poppins book was, I think, 1934. And like since 1940, Disney was after her to get the rights to make a Mary Poppins movie because I guess his daughters really liked the book. There are also, because Mary Poppins was so popular, so influential, and because Disney always has to milk IP, there have been subsequent projects also linked to Mary Poppins, one of which was they did like a sort of biopic, a docudrama telling the story behind the making of Mary Poppins, and in particular, the wheedling of the rights finally out of P.L. Travers, which was called, I almost don't want to say the title because the title is how you get to the heart of Mary Poppins, the title of the film is Saving Mr. Banks from 2013. So I assume you saw that one, Dan. And why would I assume you've seen that one?
I did see it, Brian, because it stars Tom Hanks as Walt Disney, which is almost like galaxy brain. It's like the most famous behind the scenes entertainer and the most famous in front of the screens entertainer of second half of the 20th century. I mean, those are slight exaggerations, but only slight. And whenever you read about Mary Poppins, you always hear the story of it took him years and years and years to convince this author, Travers, to give up the rights. And then apparently, like, the happy ending would be, oh, she realized that it was good all along. But didn't she end up like hating it when it was made or something?
Yeah, she ended up being unhappy. So
yeah,
it's like he hounded her for 20 years and she was desperate for money, so she sold the rights, and then she was still pissed.
right.
Yeah, we'll talk maybe a little bit about Saving Mr. Banks at the end if we got time, but she seems unpleasant in the movie. So then you got to bear in mind that Disney made the movie. So
right.
It's like I would like a third party to have made this movie because I think it's an interesting story and like that could be true. She could have been horrible, but it's like you got to think about who's keeping the keys here. Who has the power? Disney has the power, and that's
right.
problematic when you're doing a biopic.
What do they say? The victors are the ones who write history or something like that?
That's right.
So it's interesting that you said that she seems unpleasant because, again, you're probably getting it filtered through the Disney take more so than the Travers take, but all of the written accountings make her seem unpleasant too. And her number one complaint was Mary Poppins shouldn't be likable. She should be a grump. I like grumps. because I'm a grump is in essence her character. So
Yes, that seems consistent.
we can talk about the extent to which Mary Poppins ends up being a grump in the movie. I think that's an interesting topic, actually.
Yeah. And then it got a legacy sequel. In 2018, they made Mary Poppins Returns. So I was reading about the history of that one, and apparently there had been attempts through the decades to make a second Mary Poppins. And at least what I was reading this week is like maybe Travers came around a bit because so she kept writing books. She lived until 1996. She was like 100 years old. So she was publishing Mary Poppins books up until like the 80s.
Wow.
And there was talk, again, this is what I was seeing online doing my research, was that in the 80s there was talk of doing a Mary Poppins 2, and she was like actually more on board at that point, but it didn't come together.
Hmm. The Legacy sequel, does that have Lin-Manuel Miranda in the Dick Van Dyke role?
That's right. He's playing Bert Jr. Not exactly. He was like Bert's unseen apprentice. It takes place 25 years after the original. So it's the 30s instead of 1910.
Is it Emily Blunt plays the Mary Poppins character?
That's right. So had you seen that one at all?
No, I haven't seen that.
Okay. I thought it was worth tracking down just because Dick Van Dyke, who we're going to talk about this episode, Dick Van Dyke just recently turned 100, and so there were many tributes in the media to him. And he came back in Mary Poppins Returns, playing not Bert, the chimney sweep, but one of the other roles we'll be talking about here soon.
Oh, interesting.
He was 92 when he played the character in 2018, so pretty remarkable.
Bro. My 8-year-old says bro a lot. I actually think my 6-year-old says it even more than my 8-year-old, but man, times are changing.
Yeah, it made me say bro too, because
Bro.
he's dancing on the table at 92.
You know, June Squibb, she was in this movie this year that kind of got some early season Oscar buzz called Eleanor the Great. And she's 96 years old as a starring actress. And she was in a movie a year or two ago that I kind of liked and Mitch really liked. Our friend who has appeared on the pod and who's active in the Discord called Thelma. There are occasionally actors out there who stick around into their 10th century, but it's not too common. No, 10th decade. Wait, not 10th century. That you'd be like as old as Jesus then or something.
Yeah, that's not common either.
10th decade.
So let's dive into Mary Poppins from 1964. Yes, Disney was trying to get the rights for 20 years. I think he felt a connection to this story. And for many reasons, it's regarded as sort of the Disney opus. I mean, there's a lot of great early Disney films. Like, I mean, you could point to Snow White, you could point to Fantasia. He tried a lot of things, and he did the princess movies, did the theme parks, but Mary Poppins got nominated for Best Picture. It won Best Actress. So as far as like Oscar buzz while Disney was alive, this one generated a bunch.
I think there's a couple of interesting bits of context into that, whether it's Disney's opus. So I think one thing is that Disney pretty famously, I mean, I've never read a biography of him. I've honestly never even read like a detailed, like Wikipedia length biography of his life. But the gist of what I know is that he spent a lot of his later career, which is to say like 50s and 60s, 1950s, 1960s. He passed away, I think, in like 1969 or 68?
Earlier, it was 66.
Okay.
He died in 1966, at which point he was about 66. He might have turned 67 by that point.
I see.
He was born in like 1899 or 1900. So he wasn't super old. He was still stirring a lot of pots. It's kind of the Jim Henson thing, but he lived longer than Jim Henson did. But, not crazy old.
But he spent a lot of his last 20 years working on Disneyland. And it was almost like, it's kind of funny. I wonder how we would view Disney differently if he and the people who succeeded him hadn't managed to turn Disneyland and then even more so Disney World into like the most magical place on earth, like this whole place that where you are right now, Brian. It's like the ultimate family vacation, the ultimate escape. It's the dream experience. I'll be honest, when I went to Disney World with my family, it was like extremely memorable and quite magical. So, anyways, like I don't know, what if it had just fizzled out and Disneyland had never really happened or it had like shut down within a few years of his passing away? It would almost be like this thing that he struggled on for years and years. He kind of wasted his last 20 years of his life working on it. But as it is, no, it successfully became kind of like the physical palace of the Disney essence, mythology. What's interesting about that is it wasn't that he was completely uninvolved from making his projects, but whereas he had been like super intensely focused on the early animated movies and the Mickey Mouse stuff at first, it was kind of like a secondary to him. But then from what I've read in multiple accounts, Mary Poppins, for whatever reason, he's like, I want to go make a movie again. I'm going to lock in on Mary Poppins. And so like part of this idea that Mary Poppins is his opus is that it was the last movie that really got like the full Disney treatment, the full Walt Disney treatment, that is to say.
Right. And then he died 2 years later.
Right. There's an itch in my brain that we've talked about this before, but I don't remember what the context was. Oh, you know what it was? I think it was Peter Pan when we talked about Peter Pan, but that many of Disney's works are about the experience of appreciating Disney works or like being a person who loves Disney works. And like some of that is kind of applied retroactively, like Peter Pan, never grow up, always be a kid. And I think Mary Poppins feels almost more intentionally to have some of those themes about like the role of like imagination and letting magic of some form enter your life. And I kind of want to talk a little bit more about that. But I think it's not just the last thing he worked on. It's not just kind of the culmination of a lot of the stuff that the Disney studio was doing over decades and decades, but also it held in its essence an exploration of what it means to be Disney, to experience Disney and its magic.
Right. I'm going to boil that down. It's a mission statement because a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. It's like an encapsulation of what the Disney project is about and what it's for, and like arguing for itself.
But it's funny. It's like there's a phrase you hear a lot in movie discourse these days called late style. I don't know how much we've talked about this, Brian, but basically like directors when they've kind of entered their golden years and aren't really beholden to what anyone else wants, just like what their own vision of cinema should be, and just kind of go out with a bang doing like wilder, more heightened stuff. They call that late style. So we've had a lot of late style movies. We had Megalopolis from Francis Ford Coppola. You could maybe say Fabelmans was late style Spielberg. Oftentimes they have an element of like refracting the career of that person too. Here by Zemeckis is absolutely late style, and I loved Here, even though it's just bizarre. I hadn't really thought about Mary Poppins as like a late style Disney movie, but it kind of is a late style Disney movie because it does some of those things. It takes some of what he's done to new heightened levels and is like his own unique vision of the world and kind of comments on his artistic output and career.
A man has dreams of walking with giants to carve his niche in the edifice of time, or so they say.
What is that from?
It's one of the lyrics, Dan. It's Mr. Banks sings it towards the end of the film.
Oh, yeah.
So it's also about looking back and thinking about your legacy, and that your legacy can be your children, maybe should be your children, and just thinking about like the mark that your life leaves. So kind of poignant to think that Disney lived not too much longer after this film. But what Mary Poppins is about, I like to take you down the primrose path and just summarize the film. Try not to be too rote about it, but it helps as a road map. But it's about a family, like an upper class family, although in Saving Mr. Banks, which I did watch again this week, Travers is stressing they're not nobility. They're just regular folks, even though they, have multiple servants in their large house. But they live in 1910 England, and the Banks family lives on Cherry Tree Lane. It's a nice bit of production design. I love how everything is stitched together in this movie because it's all made out of like matte paintings.
Right. It's interesting because you can tell you're not really in a real city. The whole thing's got kind of like this patchwork quality to it.
And there's some strife because they're burning through nannies. They keep bringing in nannies for the kids, and for one reason or another, the nannies are put off and they leave in a huff. The parents, the father is a banker, like a hardworking banker, climbing the ladder to eventually be an executive at the bank. Not quite yet, I guess. He's like a junior vice president. He's not on the board of the bank. And then the mother is a suffragette, which is something they came up with for her to do because in the book it seemed like she didn't do anything. And the question was then, well, why doesn't she raise her children? And I think the answer is that throughout history, if you're rich, you didn't really do that. It's like you pawn that off onto somebody because who wants to spend all their time with a kid? I think was part of the mindset. Like parenting has shifted at different points and angles throughout history. But as of the 60s, people were thinking, well, yeah, parents, raise the kids.
I like this suffragette mini arc. It's like the E story in this film. What I like about it is that it's kind of thematic counterweight. Like it doesn't actually directly comment on anything that's going on here, but it like kind of shows that progress and like trying to like get your foot what's the phrase? Put a foot ahead, get a step ahead, something like that. It comes with costs and like self-sacrifice to some extent. And it's also just kind of like a goofy anachronism like, oh, this woman fighting for her voting right, but like now that's something we take for granted. And I think that's like the main reason it's in there, but it still is just kind of this thing that kind of stands on its own in conversation with some of the different thoughts about growing up and like classicism versus free spiritedness and stuff. So I enjoyed it.
Yes. This time watching, I noticed there's very much a theme of don't overlook the underclass. Like
Hmm.
whatever form that may take, it could be what gender imbalance, definitely a lot of class stuff.
Yes.
One of the main characters is this guy named Bert, played by Dick Van Dyke, and he is a jack of all trades. He every scene has a different job. He's like the guy in Dear Christmas. What was that actor's name?
Henry Golding.
No, Priestley. Somebody.
Oh, Jason Priestley. Oh, the guy who had all the different jobs. That's right.
And at the start, he's like a one-man band, but he also is a street artist. And the most iconic one, the one that you think of him having is he's a chimney sweep. He goes up in the chimneys and gets covered with soot because he scrubs the dirt out of the chimneys, which just seems pretty awful to me. I wouldn't want to do that.
No.
But it's also like very evocative of this industrial revolution historical turning point thing.
I think you're right. It's also important that we're meant to very much like Dick Van Dyke's character, and he's in all these sort of ignoble professions. He's like begging for coins on the street by doing little novelty things and getting dirty, cleaning soot.
Now, as the ladder of life has been strung, you might think a sweep's on the bottommost rung. Though I spends me time in the ashes and smoke, in this all wide world there's no happier bloke. Dan.
Let's talk the accent for a minute, Brian. So I'm a Dick Van Dyke accent truther, which is to say, I think it's good and I like it, and I don't get why people are so bothered by it.
I agree. That's always been my take, but I think of when I saw a British comedian at my school at William and Mary. He came and did a set, and did like an exaggerated Cockney accent, and then he did his, normal accent. He's like, "You guys can tell the difference, right?" And no, I couldn't. So really the thing is that it's him alongside a bunch of actors who are actually British. David Tomlinson and Glynis Johns, people from real deal England. And so I assume if you are from real deal England, you hear a disconnect. But I mean, there is a disconnect because the character is this lowly guy. So he's a whole different, economic and educational background. I buy that he would sound different.
But you do raise a point. Like, I think England is the only place you could get away with this. Like, imagine if this was set in Italy and he was like, "Hey, it's a spicy meatball," like walking around talking like that. Or worse, like imagine like their take on if this was in Asia or something like this.
Right. Yeah, you wouldn't want to see him up against, playing Chinese against other Chinese, authentically Chinese actors.
Exactly.
That would, yeah, be more of a disconnect. I want to also express my appreciation, though, for the lyrics and the music, which is huge here. I mean, that's what we're here to do, right? Talk musicals. And this has songs by the Sherman Brothers, who were Disney's crack songwriting team, like through the 60s into the 70s. In the movie Saving Mr. Banks, they're played by BJ Novak and I think Jason Schwartzman.
Sounds right. Yeah.
Mitch was just listening to an episode where you were talking about that you met BJ Novak at some point.
I did. I went to a comedy show he did, and then there was like a meet and greet afterwards. So I had a brief conversation with him.
The kids in the Banks household are Jane and Michael. I read that in the original Travers books, there were 5 kids. 2 is trimming the fat.
A couple things here. One, so I want to close the loop on talking about the soundtrack. I don't know where the right time to drop this take is, but like, is there a movie with a better soundtrack? Like, genuinely, that's my question. And though I was thinking a lot about it, maybe Beauty and the Beast. That was the one that came to mind. Like Singing in the Rain, maybe, but that one is like they weren't originals, so it was a little different. I don't know.
I was thinking about that this time, that in terms of just being consistently unforgettable, it's like every tune, there's a lot of songs in this. It's like every one is an earworm. Every one is in your brain forever. Like Star Wars. I mean, this is up with Star Wars.
Right. Except, yeah, they're show tunes. They're not just like orchestral. John Williams score.
Right. They're songs with words.
By the way, John Williams, speaking of nonagenarians, John Williams just had his birthday and he's like 94 or something like that. I think he's scoring the Disclosure Day. Maybe that's his grand finale. I don't know. I think I read that he's scoring that. I could be wrong.
Wow. And the John Williams Love Fest documentary won a Grammy, I think. The music one.
Okay.
And so now Steven Spielberg, because he like executive produced that, he's got the EGOT now. He's got like 4 Emmys, only 3 Oscars, although he's been nominated because he is often an executive producer, and many of the things he has produced have been nominated for Best Picture. And then the Tony, I guess he helped produce some musical along the way.
But on the kids, so I did not buy that like these kids would go through a string of nannies. They just seem like normal kids to me. I know like thematically it's about the tussle between conformity and free-spiritedness, or there's different variations on like what is the struggle that you could say. But like these do not seem like the kind of kids that would chase off nanny in a day. Compare that to The Sound of Music, where you really do buy it. Another Julie Andrews movie that I watched actually just for the first time all the way through in the past year. Like that one, you're like, okay, these kids are a lot. But here, it's just 2 of them, and they don't seem particularly rambunctious. They're not like putting frogs down her pants or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I think that as well. One thing I was thinking this time, one of the letterboxed reviews that I saw was, why did they cast such ugly kids? And it's not too bad, but when they open their mouths, you do see they both have rotten teeth, which maybe is authentic to England. I mean, that's the stereotype, but they both have like dead teeth in their mouths.
Interesting. I did not notice that.
They don't have movie star smiles.
I noticed it on Dick Van Dyke, and I was wondering if it was like makeup, like they put something in his teeth to make him look more British. Like it's like the equivalent of like, I don't know, yellow face. If you dress up as Asian, it's like British face. You have to tar up your teeth a little bit.
So yes, tarring them up. That's what we were speculating. I watched this one with my brother, and that it does seem he's got like the in-betweens of his teeth are darkened somehow, like he chewed on something. But I mean, yeah, still like pretty straight teeth. Glynis Johns plays the mom. She was in Court Jester.
Yeah.
But anyway, they're looking for a nanny. They put out a newspaper advertisement to recruit nannies. And the dad puts out one that's like very stern. And the kids have a competing one that they want to put out that is like very saccharine. They're looking for a friendly nanny, a nice nanny who's going to be indulgent and permissive. And the dad like very coldly tears that up, but doesn't do it right in front of the kids, but like takes it and then waits for them to go away and then tears it up, throws it in the chimney, and it magically flies up the chimney and is intercepted by Mary Poppins, who is hard to say what Mary Poppins is. Do you have a term for this type of being? What is a Mary Poppins? Is she a djinn, perhaps? I hesitate to say demon, but she's like a timeless being, and she can fly.
So why do you say she's a timeless being?
Okay, so in Mary Poppins Return, she hasn't aged.
Okay.
And Dick Van Dyke says, I feel what's to happen's all happened before. And it seems like it's kind of a cycle. So what I associate her with, Dan, is Pennywise
Okay.
from It, that she comes back every 27 years. She's a force for good, but she's like the same kind of thing that Pennywise is, like something that came down in a meteor at some point in the prehistoric, pre-human past and is just enduring.
You're bringing in Mary Poppins 2 into this. I don't see the timeless thing being in Mary Poppins 1. So maybe if you it's kind of like the Star Wars, like how much are you going to let the extra movies inform, like the extended universe inform like how you feel about the original trilogy or something like that, you know?
All right. I'm gonna say, so Bert knows her. We don't know how and when they met, but she comes down out of the clouds. She's in the opening credits, she's sitting on a cloud. So she's clearly got more going on.
I was taking claim. I was taking issue with the timeless part because here's my theory on it is that this entire movie is about exactly what I opened talking about my experience with Mary Poppins was, which is the blurry edge of childhood imagination and reality, and how when you're a kid, the things you imagine feel more real, like to the point that you can't always know like what is real and what isn't, and what is just your warped perception. I think that obviously there is a fantastical element represented, but what it feels like to me is what it feels like the way that a kid who doesn't know how the adult world works and has these strange visions of like what is the world like, and oh, this magical new nanny who's actually really fun unlike all my other ones and has all these amazing ways to entertain us and think witticisms to say, but is also very stern and in control. Like that's kind of how a kid would envision someone like that. And so obviously like it is fantastical, but and there's an element of like, yes, she has like a supernatural aspect to her, but I see it more as metaphorical than I do as like trying to like what D&D creature would she be if you were to battle her in warfare.
Interesting. I think this is one of the more fundamental differences between Dan and I's approach to movies. I've found in a few episodes this has come up. He likes things to be one to one with reality. A time that this has come up was our Toy Story discussion. He very much likes the human perspective. Keep it to the human perspective. Well, what does this teach us about the human condition? And to me, it's not about that. It's a movie, it's a world where toys are alive. Like that's the jumping off point. And so, okay, let's play in this sandbox. Let's talk about the world where toys are alive. And it doesn't have to be our world.
But the best stories are they can operate in those spaces. So I'm not to dismiss conversations about what is the nature of Mary Poppins in this world, not to be dismissive of it, but to say that I find it most interesting in the way that it illuminates what the story means to me as a person.
Gotcha. And as far as Darby O'Gill, are the leprechauns real? That one, you don't have to have a hard and fast answer. Dan is pretty confident they don't. I like to think they do. I can see the argument the other way. But she like sends a gale that blows away the other nanny contenders, and pretty quickly she's got the job. She's very gifted at like talking people into things. She could just like manipulate in a positive way because I don't know, she's got the willpower.
How many of the nanny candidates do you think died as a result of that storm? Older women, like they're literally flying through the air.
Wow. She brings chaos in her wake, the song says. I was also thinking about the timetable. Like, I never noticed before, but this story covers like 4 days, which is kind of crazy. But because all the other contenders are gone and she seems to be the one in the spot at the moment, there to do the job. I was recently watching a documentary episode of Gauntlet that I made, and one of the lines that has stuck with me is Teddy is talking about when he assumed the mantle of Santa Claus. He says, I said, I'm here. I'm here to do the job. And that's what Mary Poppins is doing here. She said, I'm here. I'm here to do the job.
Have we said who plays Mary Poppins yet?
Enlighten us.
It's Julie Andrews. She won an Oscar for this role. It's surely her most iconic role, although she remained a famous name after this. She was a young Broadway star. She's kind of miraculously good in this. There's like a lot of stuff in this movie where I'm like, it almost inexplicably good. It's like, why does it work? I'm not quite sure, but she's very, very good and charming in this. And she kind of has like a lot of different modes to play and like things to do. And she really holds it all together. And of course, when she sings, she's a Broadway star. She's got this beautiful, beautiful voice.
Yes. So a couple things about that. She originated the role of Eliza Doolittle in My Fair Lady on Broadway. And then when they made the My Fair Lady movie, she was passed over. They're like, oh, we want somebody else. And then My Fair Lady ended up winning Best Picture, but she won Best Actress for Mary Poppins. So it was like a comeback, revenge.
Get dunked.
The other thing you said that she has a lot of things that she has to do and like angles she has to portray. Yeah, I was struck that like all the things that Mary Poppins says are kind of like serious and downers often, but the way that she plays it is like you come away liking her and like, oh, she's fun and she's pretty and she's upbeat, but the things that she's saying aren't.
I think that's a great observation, and I completely agree. That really struck me. It's like she's got this, it's almost like a synthesis of two different things that is almost going to be like the ultimate takeaway of this movie is like, it's a spoonful of sugar that helps the medicine go down. It's not just the sugar. It's the fact that you have the sugar so that you can take the necessary medicine. I think some of this is just carryover from the source novel. Like Travers wanted her to be a big grump because that's the way she was written. And you get some of that. But I actually think it works really well for the story. It was making me think of like the Lego movie where one of the points of the Lego movie is you got to be in balance. You can't be all crazy. You can't be all boring. Otherwise, nothing would get done. And it has to be a blend of those two. And that to me is the Mary Poppins essence.
once she's the nanny, it's very quickly into a string of episodes of fantastic antics. And so I want to say, as a child, I felt disconnected from this because it's sort of like a lot of things that happen for the first half of the movie. And like the songs are great and the special effects are awesome, but I didn't really feel a story. Like for a long time, Dan, I was unsure who is the main character of Mary Poppins? Who is the protagonist? Like, okay, the title character is Mary Poppins. Is she the main character?
I think it's a great point also. It's almost like the movie doesn't really have a protagonist. It's like an ensemble. I agree with that. The structure of this movie, what it made me think of, I was like, what is this reminding me of? And then it occurred to me, it's The Sandlot. So what The Sandlot does is it has a bunch of little episodes that are like in this kid's life in the summer, and they just seem like they just seem like things that happen. And in that case, at least we have a protagonist, so it's a little different. But they're like these things that happen, and then at the end we get an episode that ties it all together. Not only does it like have like a payoff on it, but it's almost like the opening of the movie was teaching you what you needed to know, like how to watch the movie, like what are the things to know about these characters and the themes of the movie to get us to the final chapter. That's like it's kind of stands alone from everything else, but it's like that you couldn't have that work without everything that led up to it. That's kind of what this is. And it's strange because the last episode, the protagonist, the one who goes through the arc, is not any of the characters that we've really spent time with up until that last segment. And so the structure and the character focus, it's all just very unusual.
Yes, oddly structured, oddly paced. But I will say that, and it doesn't feel like a breakthrough because they titled the movie this right when I figured it out. But I really see it as being about the dad. And it's not structured like it's about the dad, but he's the one who has an arc, and the other characters not so much. It's sort of about the whole thing. It's the realization that the dad needs to appreciate his family, appreciate the kids, appreciate joie de vivre, like have the fun and the sugar in life, or you'll miss it. But it's also like don't overlook the lower class, don't overlook the women. It's like stop and appreciate your life, but also see everybody who's making society work.
Right. And I was thinking about this too. And each of the episodes has a song. I was wondering what the right word is. And I think joie de vivre is maybe a way to say it. Like, what is the thing that they're talking about? Imagination doesn't feel quite right or sufficient. It's not like I've used the term free spiritedness, and that's not quite right either. Maybe it's joie de vivre, but it's like a playful engagement with the world. The movie kind of looks at this concept through a lot of different lenses as epitomized by like songs within these episodes. So you have maybe like the thesis statement is a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down, but then you have like, oh, sometimes this means you're very silly, like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Sometimes this means that you just have a cheerful spirit when you're going through the daily grind, like chim chim cheree. Sometimes this means that you see spiritually deeper things in the world that you wouldn't see if you're always stern in like Feed the Birds. And so like each of the different songs and episodes kind of illuminates a way that this sort of spirit, this joie de vivre, if you will, makes life richer and better. Well, we'll talk about like how his story actually ends, but I think the term synthesis, like it's not that he gives up the grown-up world, but it's that he learns to bring that stuff into it that we witness going on in each of these episodes.
Right. Yeah. That all was well stated. And I'm picking up what you're putting down. In these different vignettes, so on the first day, they clean the nursery. Like, okay, well, here's the job. You got to clean your room before anything else happens. And this is Spoonful of Sugar. She says, in every job that must be done, there is an element of fun. You find the fun and snap, the job's a game. And every task you undertake becomes a piece of cake. a lark, a spree. It's very clear to see. And remember, these guys, the Sherman brothers, they wrote It's a Small World. So they know how to write something that stays with you, that you're on the boat ride, and once you hear it, it's never going away. I liked the robotic robin in this song. There's like a little animatronic bird. Just every little scene has got these crazy special effects, like, vintage, but very seamless. I mean, even from the moment that Mary Poppins comes in the house, she's got like the bottomless bag and she goes up the banister. And so she looks in the mirror and then she walks away from the mirror and the reflection persists. That really freaked me out. Like, that has always bothered me. I don't like that happens.
But she's a djinn, Brian. She can do these things.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Do you know the comedian Brian David Gilbert?
Yes.
Something like 1 in 3 of his videos have a mirror in it, and just lock it in. If there's a mirror, even if it's just in the background, it's going to do this thing where he like turns, his reflection does something different from what he's doing in a way to make you feel both amused and slightly unsettled.
Yeah, he's one of those video game journalists that has like a funny takeoff YouTube career, kind of like the action button guy. And what's another one? They do the tea party on the ceiling with Love to Laugh. But like the big crazy one that's really early on, it was only like, I don't know, 15 minutes into the movie. I forgot how early it happened, was they jump into the painting, Bert's painting, and it's this long scene of it's got multiple songs in it. It's got the Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, Jolly Holiday. Call it the Jolly Holiday sequence. It's when they're in with the cartoons. They ride a horse that flies off a merry-go-round, and it's like phantasmagorical. There's just a lot of stuff going on.
And this is one that, watching it this time, and I also watched it maybe a year and a half ago with my kids for the first time. They hadn't seen it before. Where this is like one where, kind of what we were talking about earlier, it could be like, man, they went into a fantasy cartoon world and crazy things were happening. Or you can say like, this is like they were playing and this was what they were imagining was happening. It has the feeling of a childhood imagination to me.
I read a little about the process of how they did some of these things in the Jolly Holiday sequence. Because basically, I mean, you can think of it as green screen. Apparently, it's more involved than that. Like, it's not just a color matte where they had, the background a certain color. This is called the sodium vapor process.
That sounds like something that would be employed in World War I to like give people hives on their skin.
Chemical warfare, mustard gas. Yeah, no, the sodium vapor process. Apparently, so they used a special kind of light that you could essentially key it out, which is what you say when you green screen. But apparently, it like very effectively separates the subject from the background, to the point that the special effects heads online were all raving that Mary wears a veil in this scene. She's got a hat with a veil on it. And if you had a veil like that in front of a normal green screen, it would just get all fucked up. It wouldn't work. It would be very hard to do that. But here it's showing off the virtuosity of what they're doing here. That you've got the cartoons going all around them, like through Dick Van Dyke's legs, the penguins dance. And you could see like the flowers and the butterflies and everything through the veil, but you can still see the veil, like uninterrupted. And so this is them showing off.
Yeah, this is like 25 years before Roger Rabbit. And it was blowing my mind how good it is. It's compared to the circus one that we talked about. Remember, that had like primitive green screen, and it was always just pulling you out when they were doing the green screen.
Because you could like see through the people and stuff, yeah.
This looks so good.
No, this is great.
And Bedknobs and Broomsticks too. You can definitely say that about that.
Mm-hmm. But at a certain point, Mr. Banks is miffed. You're doing all these crazy things, Mary Poppins. everything is higgledy-piggledy, and I'm a stiff upper lip British gentleman, and I need to be raising children who exist in a real world and are stern and stoic and realistic, like pragmatic, like they can't be fantasists.
Right. They gotta be productive members of society. It's all about productivity. And how can one be a productive member of society if they're saying nonsense words like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious? Did you ever learn the reverse? At one point, she says the syllables in reverse order in the song.
Whatever they say is not truly the backwards. It's like the different chunks are backwards.
The syllables, yeah.
It's like doshi califret. I did not learn it, but
Okay.
it ends with rupus,
Rupus. Interesting.
which really would be repus, repus. But the way that she says it in the movie, it ends with rupus. But you go to the tape. If I were really a Poppins head, I would know.
A Poppins head.
But I want to say again, what I opened the episode with was I liked Bedknobs and Broomsticks better. Mary fires back to this accusation that she's filling the children's heads with escapist nonsense. That, oh, okay, well, you could take your kids to work at the bank. Remember, he works at the bank. So the next day, that's what they do. Before that morning comes, Mary Poppins sings the lullaby about Feed the Birds, which was apparently Walt Disney's favorite song that the studio put out while he was alive. He would like have the Sherman Brothers come in and play Feed the Birds for him on the piano and just kind of, I think, reflect back on his life, but particularly like what he had built. You know, got the theme parks, got the movies, got this whole studio and like this empire that he's building that, you know, today he wouldn't even recognize, but it's like rules the world, rules the media space in arguably even harmful ways. Well, it's grown so big.
I don't think you need to argue that one, but no, and not just that he had built all of this, but that he had built it on this idea that you could have this kind of magic, that you could, there was value in pausing to feed birds a little bit of seed. And even though that didn't quote unquote matter, it ultimately did matter. So, yeah.
Right. And yeah, what the song is about is that this, I think, homeless woman, framed that way, a woman who sits on the steps of a cathedral, sells these little satchels of bird seed to feed birds and pigeons, you know, overlooked birds, unappreciated, often maligned birds. And do you spend your pennies to feed these birds that many would see as a nuisance? Or do you have to put every cent that you earn, every bit of this productivity towards something gainful?
Right.
And what does it mean? What does it mean to produce? Or what does it mean to be meaningful?
I wish we had Mitch on right now because I'm sure he could point us towards the religious undercurrents to this song. It's definitely written to sound like a hymn. I mean, it references being at a cathedral, and it has this element of spirituality to it.
So the next day they go to the bank. They do run into this woman. Michael, the son, wants to give his tuppence to the bird lady. And the dad says, no, don't do that. We're here to go to the bank. So come and hear what the bank is all about. Tuppence, I mean, it's 2 pennies. It probably was not worth very much, even in 1910 or 1964, but worth even less than that now. Like a very small amount of money. But again, that's my feeling. I don't know British currency, especially not old-timey British currency.
At one point, one of the maids says, "You could give me 100 quid." I was like, "You're just making up money terms. You could tell me the 400 coppers. Okay, sure, whatever, man. Just fuck me up, dude. British money is out of control."
They meet the board of executives at the bank, and this is a very scary scene for kids. I remember being menaced by this, that the old men are like looming over the kids and they want the coins. But like listening to the lyrics of this song, it actually does a pretty good job of explaining what a bank account is. Again, I just shout out to the Sherman Brothers. There's some great lyrics in the Fidelity Fiduciary Bank song. And they're also kind of like, explaining the British Empire. It's like, oh, we're colonizing Africa and we're colonizing Asia. And yeah, like the menace of that, but also like the economics of it. So interesting. A lot going on in this scene. But what it gets to is they grab the coins.
Take his tuppence.
And the head of the bank is this old crotchety man, like cartoonishly geriatric. And he's Dick Van Dyke.
Incredible. I was trying to figure out what it all meant. Why? It's like in X when they have the old lady and Pearl be the same person. I guess no, Pearl is the old lady, and the other Mia Goth character, what's her name? Maxine.
Yeah. I think Dick Van Dyke just wanted to do this. Like, I think the old character was already there, and Dick Van Dyke was like, "Can I play that?"
But I don't know. I kind of feel like it's almost like a mirrored version of some. It's like the harbinger of two sides of the world. Each of them is each of the Dick Van Dykes is. You got your two dicks on both sides, and
Right. The loose, free, like floppy-limbed Dick, and the very uptight, rigid Dick.
something like that. Yeah.
Yes.
But there was a meme that I sent you not too long ago, Brian, where it was a screenshot of this scene in the bank, and it said it would be crazy to explain to someone who didn't know the context that 65 years later, everyone in this shot is dead except for the old man.
Exactly. It's prophetic almost that he would be this ridiculously old man.
And part of that is, of course, it's sad, but the actor who played the boy died quite young. I think it was like he got a sudden illness and passed away when he was like 20 or something like that.
Yes, we mentioned in No Mobile, which was like 2 or 3 years after this, that was the kid's last movie role. Also, Edwin's last movie role. Edwin here as the laughing uncle who floats around on the ceiling. Just, another instance of wackiness, but yeah, whimsy.
Mm-hmm. We haven't yet mentioned, Brian, that there's part of this like Edwardian, like satirical version of this town. There's a strong element of satire that everything is just kind of in a balance that's just so in this that like the satire doesn't override anything, the whimsy doesn't override anything too much. But one of the things is like there's this house that's like a boat. I don't even quite understand it, and it shoots off a cannon every day. So there's this bit that happens like 4 times in the movie, and it's funny every time, where when the cannon goes off, it makes everything in the house rattle. So everybody has to be prepared to grab something so it doesn't fall, and you get like some prop gymnastics as they do that and stuff. I was thinking you would like this little bit of set design.
I do like that. Yeah, that people are eccentric in the world even before Mary Poppins comes in. There's this captain man who lives in the boathouse. Which, yeah, there was a good line from Tom Hanks in Saving Mr. Banks that because one of P.L. Travers' notes is like, there's too much whimsy in this. You need to strip away the whimsy, less of this silly craziness. And he's like, no whimsy, says the woman who invented the flying nanny with the talking umbrella.
Get dunked, Travers.
One thing I want to say about Saving Mr. Banks, we're getting rambly here, but I think I want to say it, is so that story takes place in 1961. He's trying to get the rights away from her, trying to buy them, trying to win her over. And she goes to a hotel room in Los Angeles, again, 1961, and it's full of promotional Disney stuff. And it's like a lot of stuffed animals of Mickey and Minnie and Goofy and Pluto. And there's a Pooh Bear in there. And she picks up the Pooh and she says, oh, poor A.A. Milne. Like, oh, he sold his soul. But they didn't make Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree until 1966, Dan. there would not be a Pooh plush that she could pick up and bemoan. That just wouldn't be there. And they supposedly did all this dramaturgy, all this research to get it period accurate. Everybody's in the cars and the clothes. There would not be a Pooh there to talk about.
You did a good job poo-pooing that, Brian. That's
Yes. It needed to be said.
Yeah.
I needed to air that out.
good, but good insight. Well done.
But the old men, which is what we're talking about, they grab the coins, and the kids are understandably upset. Like they didn't really agree to that. And then you got the little boy yelling, "Give me my money, they won't give me my money." This makes everybody in the bank panic because seemingly they're not giving out money when people request a withdrawal, which is alarming. You know, it doesn't reflect well on the liquidity of the bank.
And this happens in It's a Wonderful Life too. I was thinking of that. A bank run.
Yep. And so chaos at the bank. You know, they got to shutter it down, very much like It's a Wonderful Life. I was actually thinking of It's a Wonderful Life a lot in this movie, particularly at the end. I mean, yes, the end is very similar. Because, so the kids run off, they leave this panic at the bank behind them. They run into Bert, Dick Van Dyke, and we get the Chim Chim Cheree sequence where he's telling them about his like fourth job as a chimney sweep. He takes them up on top of the buildings. Here I was seeing more of the message of like these are the people making society function, even though they're overlooked and like looked down on. It's more also of an excuse to have special effects.
The song Chim Chim Cheree is a really great one. I mean, there's, like I said, I think, and you said it well, pretty much every song in this is great, and there's a lot of them, and they're all distinct. It's kind of notable because the lyrics are very cheerful, but it's a minor key, and it's like a sad waltz sound to it.
And this is actually the one that won the Oscar. Like of all of them, this one.
Yeah. This sequence where they kind of like clean the chimneys and they go up into this like sky world. This really left an impression on me as a kid. It was like almost freaky to me. It almost felt like Dr. T, like the 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T to me. Like when they like climb the stairs up to nothing in that movie, and here they're like, it's like a almost surreal expansion of the world.
Yeah, lots of tricks apparently up on this high rooftop. I'm sure there's, you know, it's probably a set that's down at a more comfortable height, but it's pretty imposing. And then Mary comes up and like turns a plume of smoke into a staircase, and they just climb higher and higher. It's pretty cool.
I know we got a lot to cover still, but I want one last thing to point out about this bit. There's there's almost too much backstory. When I was a kid, or like more like a teenager, I had this dance that I used to do where I would like kick out my legs. It was almost like a sort of hoedown type dance. And one time my dad caught it on camera when I didn't realize he was doing it. And so my dad would show us that video and became known as the Dan dance. And so then I kind of like leaned into it and like it became a silly thing that I did. And I still did it for my kids. And apparently Maria, my sister, who's younger than me, she's a lot younger than me. She's still in college. She did it once at school and someone said, "Oh, you're doing the yoinky spoinky." So we call that dance the yoinky spoinky now in my house. You wouldn't believe the number of times I say yoinky spoinky per day, Brian. It's like significantly more than one per day. Like this is coming up all the time in the Stalkup household. Anyways, the point being that there's a shot where they're doing like a textbook perfect yoinky spoinky on top of the chimneys. It's like if you wanted to describe, hey, what's the yoinky spoinky? I would send them a gif of them doing that dance on top of the chimneys.
Okay, so wait, is this the bit where the legs kind of make an X?
It's like your fists go up and down, like you're pumping up and down, and then your legs kind of like alternate going up and down, like not an X. It's like after they do that.
Okay. How similar is this to what the corpse does in a Goofy movie?
Similar, very similar.
Okay. All right. Because remember, listeners, I mean, I'm sure you're aware, this is an audio experience, so it'll be hard for you to picture, perhaps. So join our Discord.
for more yoinky spoinky discussion.
You can see Dan do the yoinky spoinky. Wow, my imagination is fired. The boatman mistakes the dancing chimney sweeps as what he calls Hottentots, which is apparently racist. It's got a label on Disney Plus, but it's also like so antiquated. It's like, are who exactly is getting offended?
Yeah, it
But
sounds made up. Yeah.
yeah, these cartoon fireworks are flying around. These 20 chimney sweeps are jumping the chimneys and dodging the roofs, and they all spill down one of the chimneys out into the Banks's fancy, rich living room. Just cloud of gross soot everywhere. And remember, the craziness at the bank was caused by the Banks children. And so Banks has borne the brunt of that. So things are not going well right now for the dad. And here he comes home dishonored, and there's 20 chimney sweeps in his house. And the meat, I think, the meat of the movie is here. Like all throughout, there's things that are happening that are interesting and that are arguably meaningful. But I think this is where is the crux. Because Mr. Banks talks to Bert and has this song where the dad talks about the dreams of walking with giants and carving a niche in the edifice of time. And Bert says, while you're grinding at the grindstone, life is passing you by and your kids are growing up. What was your reaction to this, Dan?
I actually have very slightly mixed feelings about it. In the sense that I really think it works. I've kind of already said it, like it's unconventional structure. It doesn't feel right. And it works though. But the thing that feels a little off about it to me is that we don't actually start this until like an hour and 55 minutes into a 2 hour and 20-minute movie. When I watched it with my kids, they said, "Oh, so this is the end of the movie, right?" Like when the chimney sweeps were dancing around, actually even before then. And it's like, no, we got like 35 minutes left in the film, actually. So there's still a lot to go. And in fact, that's when the proper arc, character growth actually occurs. I think it's effective, but I think my favorite parts of Mary Poppins are the first half, when it's just the fun, crazy things with like the all-timer songs. Because here it's a little bit less music, it's more talking, it's more thinking, it's a little slower, and it's like the dad who, I like the dad. I think he's well cast. I think he's a good. I think everybody's well cast in this movie, but like it's not Dick Van Dyke like pulling his pants down to his knees and doing a silly penguin dance. It's like a little different energy. So I still feel it all holds together very well, but I just have a little bit of heartburn of the fact that this is a 2 hour and 20-minute movie and we don't hit that arc until like close to the 2 hour mark.
Yes. I wonder, like, is Mary Poppins a kid's movie? I would say no. I don't think it is. I don't think it's a kid's movie, but that's my perspective now. And like as a kid, again, like I appreciated the songs, I appreciated the crazy cartoon effects and that it really is well done. Like I saw that even then, technically well done. I think it's structurally weird, and I felt that too as a kid. It's like, what exactly is the point of this? And the point that I've arrived at is I think it is about the dad. I think this is also like Disney looking back on himself and like explaining himself, but also saying that he now appreciates as he's older, as he's getting near the end, because he died just a couple years after this. That he's like, what is important in life?
Mm-hmm.
So the dad has to report back to the bank like late at night to get fired. I don't know why they couldn't just fire him when he was there before. It seems like some back and forth. But you get this bit at the end where he's walking across London to get to the bank at night and like very forlorn. And this is where I was feeling a lot of It's a Wonderful Life, because it's like, well, he's lost his position. He's moreless. And it's like, what is going to happen here? Is he going to jump off a bridge or something? And it doesn't quite get there, but it's very somber. And you got all these matte paintings and street lamps, and I found it poignant.
No, I think that's astute, and I think you're right that it kind of when it gets to this more pensive phase, it feels less like a little kid's whimsical adventure and more like a grown-up reckoning with aging. And I mean, everything is so beautifully shot in this movie, but that when it like turns to this more serious, darker tone, it really does pack a punch. So even with the odd pacing, I'm with you. I think it works ultimately. Although I was laughing really hard when they actually fire him. I had forgotten what they actually do when they fire him, and it's very funny. It's like, oh, it's like almost like you're here for your judgment to like go to hell or something like that. It's almost shot like a church again, and it's got like this red tint to it when he's in there.
All the executives are in this beam of light.
And what do they do when they fire him, Brian?
They punch his bowler hat through. They take it and they punch right through it, so the center of his hat is like an open can, and they rip off his boutonniere flower.
That was the one that got they like tear it in half. It's like, oh no, not the flower. It's like the ceremonial thing. And yeah, punching the hole in the hat is very funny.
Yeah, I was thinking of Zuko from Avatar. My honor. That's that's what this symbolizes. The punched hat is he has no honor.
Yeah.
So he's got to go back with his ruined hat to the house. But before he leaves the meeting, it's like the true meaning of Christmas comes through. It's like suddenly the Poppins magic makes sense, which is it was kind of percolating in his brain as he made the walk across the city of like what is really important. And so he like sprinkles in things that he's heard and learned from Mary Poppins. One of which is he tells a joke at the meeting with the bosses, and then he leaves. And it's like after he's gone, the old Dick Van Dyke man starts laughing at the joke, and he actually takes flight like Edwin.
Right, that little scene earlier. Although we'd get a punchline on that like 2 minutes later when they say, "Oh yeah, he died." When he did that.
Right. Yes, I think it's a great payoff because what started off the movie was the kids were out in the park flying a kite and it like got away from them and got damaged. And at the end of the movie, Mr. Banks fixes the kite and they all go out and fly the kite. So it's the parents together with the children. They're spending time together. They're appreciating life. They're having fun, flying the kite. Let's Go Fly a Kite is the name of the song. And this is when Mary Poppins departs because she's like achieved the mission. She's brought the family back together. Parents are with the kids. Dick Van Dyke is selling kites, so he's job number 5 or whatever. And as they're out flying the kite in this finale sequence, the bosses of the bank are also out there flying a kite. The son of the oldest man, who is himself an old man, talks to Banks and says that the senior, his father, died laughing, which leaves a partnership position open. And so Mr. Banks, I guess, has his job back.
Not just that, he has a promotion.
Yes. So, like, that's great. But also, I mean, I guess he's the one with the training, right? He's the one who, if the bank run hadn't happened, would have gotten the promotion. But the bank run did happen. So it's like, I guess the magic of Mary Poppins has won them over.
Right.
I mean, the guy died, but he died happy. And I guess that goes a long way.
Right. And he was able to bring to the whole board, and particularly this figure who was emblematic of like the sternness, some of that magic. And so now he can bring together the joie de vivre and being a grown up. He can do those things without he realizes that he can do those things without sacrificing being an adult. Or I guess the other way, he can still be an adult without sacrificing the little joys in the world.
Now, I want to talk about what some see as the arguably inferior follow-up, Bedknobs and Broomsticks from 1971. There are many things that connect these films, one of which is because the rights battle for Mary Poppins took 20 years, at a certain point, Disney said to his company, to his script readers, hey, look for something that's like Mary Poppins and could maybe fill that same like gap, that need of a story where British children have a magical woman that they go on adventures with. Can you find something like that? And so they found the novel by Mary Norton, The Magic Bedknob from 1943, and its sequel, Bonfires and Broomsticks from 1947. And so they bought the rights to these books as like plan B, just in case Poppins doesn't come through. What could we do? Well, we could start thinking songwriter team and scriptwriter team about Bedknobs and Broomsticks. But then the Poppins rights came through, and okay, well, this is what we want to do. We're going to focus on this. We're going to make Mary Poppins. This is great. Good. We did it. We're done. Then Walt Disney died. The studio was like, well, okay, what do we do? Got to keep making movies because that's what we're set up to do. Walt's not here, but let's look at what we got on the pile. What have we started working on? What's in the slush pile? Bedknobs and Broomsticks was there. And so essentially, 1971, a few years after Disney's death, they're burning through this kind of back burner IP pile, and they drag out Bedknobs and Broomsticks. And they put the same writer, Don DeGraudy, on it. It's the Sherman Brothers doing the songs again. Let's do the thing again where we have the live action people in an animated world. Many points where it's 1-to-1 between Mary Poppins and this one. David Tomlinson, who played Mr. Banks, is back in an even more prominent role this time. And so, Dan, you said this one was new to you, right?
Yes, I did not know very much about this. So definitely you can see like they're building off a template. They're trying to repeat the formula and the magic. So they're kind of pulling all those elements, like you said. It was very jarring for me to have Tomlinson, who played this serious dad, and now he's essentially, I guess the analog is the Dick Van Dyke character, who's like this sort of got a whimsy element to him, and like a street life type guy.
Yeah, he's sort of a shady con man guy.
Yeah,
but like funny and bumbling.
so that was a contrast as opposed to a similarity, but it's the same cast. So
Right. But the main role is now Angela Lansbury, and she plays a character named Eglantine Price, who is studying a correspondence program in witchcraft. And important to say that the setting now is 1940. It's World War II is going on.
of course,
I love the opening credits of this film. So if we did a top 5 opening credits or credits in general, this is going on the list for me. Because what it is the Bayeux Tapestry, which is a very long, like a fabric scroll that's hanging in a castle. You could go and see it today. And it's a graphic depiction of the Battle of Hastings, when William the Conqueror came from Normandy in France and he took over England. Like England had up to this point been ruled by Anglo-Saxon kings, but these like Frenchmen of Norse descent came and they took over England. And that's what's on this like proto comic strip, basically. And if you've seen like bardcore memes, like it uses graphics from the Bayeux Tapestry. Anyway, that's what this opening sequence has. It's these illustrations, except they tell the story of the movie. And they have little like medieval figures that kind of show what each person who made the movie does. So they're like little minstrels for the Sherman Brothers, and there's like a bard for the orchestra conductor, and like the set builders are like building a tower, and the assistant director is a shepherd because they're the one who are like yelling to keep people in line and get them where they need to be on time. And it's all very good and creative.
I definitely wouldn't have placed that. I don't even know if I guess I would have to have gone and watched it again for all of that to register.
Yes, I've watched this movie many, many times. It's in my top 10 movies. And I'll say maybe this watch a little of the shine wore off just because. So in Mary Poppins, like every song is accompanied by some amazing visual. And here in Bedknobs and Broomsticks, many of the early songs are quite pedestrian in their staging. Like it's in one place and often a pretty like down to earth set. But World War II is happening. There's the evacuation of children from the city. Like, get out of London because it's being bombed by the Germans. If you've seen the first Narnia movie, this same thing happens. So, three three kids in that story, three British kids who, at least in the movie, were evacuated because of the war. I don't know if that's in the book or not. Probably it is. But here that's what's happening. And so these I guess they're orphans. They talk as though they were orphans. Although in Narnia, I think they have parents, and it's just like kids in general got sent out of the city. Like, can't be here anymore. Got to go to the countryside because that's less likely to get bombed.
Right. I think that's exactly it. Yeah.
But here later on, they're like, will you be our mother? Because they are assigned to go quarter with Angela Lansbury, who is this, like, I don't know, 40 something spinster.
I thought they were pretty explicitly orphans. Like that opening scene was kind of like at an orphanage but yeah, the whole arrangement is weird. Like it kind of happens fast. I didn't quite understand it. She gets like pawned off on them because they need someone to take care of them. Yeah. Or
Right.
I wasn't quite sure.
Yeah, but it's like the government official, this other older lady comes and is like, "Well, here are your charges." And she didn't ask for that. She didn't sign up for that, but now she has these children foisted on her. The children are a little older, two of them at least, than the kids in Mary Poppins. So they have, a little bit more. Well, I don't know. The kids in Mary Poppins are not bad. They've got business to do. But I like Charlie, the oldest kid in this movie, because he's got some acting chops, and he kind of bristles. He kind of fires back a little bit at Angela Lansbury.
Oh, I thought he was so annoying, but I mean, he's at least a character, whereas the kids aren't really characters in Mary Poppins.
Yeah. The program that Angela Lansbury is doing is a witch class by mail. And so it's like each week she'll get a chapter of the textbook in the mail, and it'll tell her how to do a new spell. And then she'll go into her little workshop and she'll practice the spell, and they work. So, okay, magic is real. You can be a witch. And she is planning to use her witch powers to fight the Germans in the war. So that's her master plan, is she'll become a powerful witch and win World War II and prevent England from being invaded.
That's a plan for someone to have, I guess. That's a choice. I mean, at least it like gives her some thrust, like go defeat Nazis. Like, hell yeah, okay, I'm with you, lady. But there is something to the Edwardian era of Mary Poppins and the Titanic and like the dawn of the industrial stuff and the dawn of or the peak of imperialism and all that stuff that has like a sort of nostalgic pull to it that when you're trying to recreate it in World War II, it just plays very strangely. I would say I disliked it. Like I think it does kind of work, but it is bizarre that it is like it's Nazis.
Oh, I think it works well here because the conflict is much clearer. Like from the jump, we know that there's this war. We know her goal is to get powerful and win the war. We have a sense of the conflict on a few fronts. So you get these kids who are put out of their homes. And also, like the very first thing that happens in the movie is the old home guard marches through the town. And the home guard is made up of these old men. And the reason that they're defending the home front is because the young men are out in the war internationally. And like this was a real organization. There was, I guess, a British sitcom for a while called Dad's Army that was about these guys.
Well, I guess what I meant is the tone is kind of strange, a strange fit, because it has this element of like, oh, is magic even real? Which is kind of analogous to the stuff going on in Mary Poppins. It's not exactly the same because here, like, is magic real is a little more concrete than like, is it good to have imagination and joie de vivre in your life? But it feels analogous to me, and there's like a certain element of whimsy to it that it's replicated here, but set against the war. Stringent is too negative a word, but it's like an odd juxtaposition, I guess. I kind of liked it. It felt refreshing. It was different.
Yeah, it's kind of darker.
Yeah.
The kids come to stay and they notice that Miss Price is doing witch stuff. They see her flying on her broom. So Charlie, the confrontational kid, the one you said is annoying, which fair, I guess, he wants to blackmail Miss Price. He's like, you don't want people to know that you're a sorceress, which, I mean, maybe she does. I guess but no, it turns out that she doesn't. She wants to keep mum about it. And so the bargain that they strike is she gives them this magic bed knob that they can use to turn the bed into like a flying carpet.
Okay, I have since you earlier brought up, Brian, that you like to think about things literal as they're presented. Okay.
Yes.
What is the magic? Is it just saying the words? It's like, so that has nothing to do with her being a witch. It's like, okay, she has on a note card the words she has to say. It's like, oh, but like anyone could do that. I didn't quite understand. Like, what is the magic?
No, I think you're right because we see over the course of the movie different people say the magic words and they work. So I really think the magic is in the words.
So what's the blackmail? What is it about her that, oh, look, she knows that words exist. Arrest her.
Well, I mean, witches historically have been persecuted, so maybe that's the fear.
But like she isn't a witch. She's like a person who says words.
But they have magical effects, so, and not everyone knows them.
So it's her actions that make her a witch, not anything intrinsic in her and her abilities. It's not like a Harry Potter thing where some people can do magic and some people can't. It's that like she has the words and she says the words, and that's what makes her a witch.
Yes, I think that's correct. It's rather like in 2016 when there were the rash of clown sightings. Do you remember that?
No, I do
Oh,
not.
okay, well, we're running long here, so we'll save that dive for another episode. But anyway, people were citing clowns, and there was like mass hysteria about rogue clowns out in the wilderness. My brother, when he covered this on his radio show, was saying he saw a comment on a forum thread, somebody asking, "Are these real clowns or just people in clown costumes?" And you have to just wonder about clown ontology. Does anyone in clown clothes become a clown, or is there an intrinsic quality to a real clown? Like, is it the training? Is there a clown ability, or does just putting on the makeup make you one? So I think we're kind of diving at the same thing when we're talking witches here.
Agreed. There's no one answer. Nature versus nurture, Brian.
But the tap gets shut off. The letter comes from the correspondence college saying no more lessons. But she's not ready to win the war yet. She needs more. She needs the promised super spell, and it's apparently not forthcoming. And so she's just made this traveling bed for the kids and says, "Hey, I need that back real quick. Let's go track down this lying professor." And they warp to London and they meet David Tomlinson. So, Dan, I know each episode here this month, we're taking 2 decades off the board. And we talked last time, are the examples that we pick going to embody a whole decade? Like, is it fair to say, well, this is a 50s, this is a 60s. And I wondered if I picked two movies so close together, so much shared DNA, is it defensible to say this is a 70s musical? This scene justifies yes. This warping of the bed that flies through the sky, and you have these LSD trips that happen anytime the bed flies. I think, yes, this is the 70s.
Okay. I can see that. I don't think the picks have to, but I'm glad that you have identified something distinctly 70s about it. I mean, some of that is almost like the psychedelia of like late 60s, but I think it saw its peak artistic representation in probably the early 70s, like you're talking about. In the 60s, musicals got really long. And I think you see that, especially in Mary Poppins, which is, again, 140-ish minutes. And this one is the cut that I watched coming up on 2 hours, which is pretty long too.
Yes, it's important to say the cut that you watched, which is also the cut that I watched this time. But a lot of the original runtime of this film was cut out and lost some of it. Because so they put together like a roadshow cut originally that was like 2.5 hours long, just like very long. And then even before it was in wide release, they hacked out like half an hour of it. And then somewhere along the way, because some of the songs that were cut were included on like the soundtrack record, and somebody in the intervening years said, "Hey, like, does this scene exist anymore? And like, can we find it?" And then for the 25th anniversary in 1996, like the earliest days of DVDs existing, they said, let's do a 25th anniversary restoration. And so they restored as much as they could, but it's kind of a botch job. A lot of it, they had the film, but they didn't have the original audio. And so they like dubbed it by people who weren't the original actors. And like, it's just not very good. Some of the songs that were cut are interesting because like Professor Brown got a song when he's standing on the street corner. Because when they find him, they find out that he's a charlatan. He like stands on the street corner and does like what you think of a magician doing.
Illusions.
Badly. Tricks or something a whore does for money.
I did like this though because it's the kind of the two different ways we think of magic. Like, is magic just deceit purely for our own amusement, or is it some ability to alter the fabric of the world in some way? And so I like that he was a magician, but didn't realize he was also a magician.
Right. If you ever watch My Little Pony, there's good interrogation of the difference between a magician and a wizard.
Wait, is that my kids were just watching it? Discord? Is that the one you're talking about?
Well, there's a character called Trixie. So,
Okay.
all right, so unicorns in My Little Pony, at least the Friendship is Magic iteration, which is called Gen 4, have magic.
What have I done?
And Twilight Sparkle is an exceptionally powerful magic user, Dan. But she has this frenemy named Trixie, who is a magician, like a stage magician, like does sleight of hand. She's like the rival because she's not as powerful with the magic, but she does magic. And it's like, it's kind of unusual and interesting. Anyway, there you go. More time on that subject perhaps another day. But we're burning the midnight oil. As a magician, Professor Emilius Brown is a failure. But when he finds out that Miss Price actually does real deal magic, not, rabbits from hats, although she does turn people into rabbits, he's like intrigued. He's like, wait a minute, maybe I can finally make money. But she wants to know, like, why did the college close? And what it turns out is he ran out of pages in his book. Like, so he's got this old-timey sorcerer tome that the spells come from, but it's ripped in half, and it's gotten to the end of the first half of the book. So the next leg of the journey is they got to go find the rest of the book. So they'll have the magic words to the spell, which is called substitutionary locomotion. And kind of all throughout, there are Sherman Brothers songs. What were your thoughts on the music in this one?
I watched these two movies in pretty short succession, and I've grown up with Mary Poppins. Considering that, in general, the music didn't quite pop for me, and I didn't know how much of that was just lack of familiarity. Like almost all music is better when you're familiar with it. And how much of that was just it's not as good as Mary Poppins. I mean, I would contend it isn't as good as Mary Poppins, but there was a couple of numbers I really like. One of the numbers that we're about to get to in the accounting of the story, there's like all the different street performers, and it's like what's the name of the street that they're talking about?
Portobello Road.
Yes, this one was really hopping for me.
Yeah. I really like the music, but this watch I was thinking like when the music is all you get, it doesn't have the punch that Mary Poppins has, because in there the music is always accompanied by like an unforgettable visual too, which really sells it and really helps it stick. And there's less of that in Bedknobs and Broomsticks. But I still think the craft of the lyrics and the melody, very, very good. The high water mark, at least before the ending, is, yeah, Portobello Road, which is where they go to find the other half of this book. It's a real place in London. Cat Stevens has a song about it because there's a lot of these secondhand shops there. It's like, shoddy antique malls, I guess. But the Portobello Road song is like this ballet, essentially. It's this extended sequence with song and dance where all the different groups in the city are coming through, and it's like different parts of the British Empire, and they're all like preparing to go to war, presumably. It's like there are, Scottish soldiers in kilts, and there are Sikh soldiers in turbans, and they all have different ways that they dance and different instruments that they play. And then there's like Jamaican soldiers who have the steel drums. So they all have like a different flavor of music and dance that they lay on top of this melody, which is Portobello Road, Portobello Road, da, 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 da. And it's cool. And in the roadshow cut, this goes on for like 10 minutes.
Oh wow.
And it's shorter a little bit in the winnowed down version.
I was thinking of Enchanted. That's how you know, where like they bring in dancers and like a couple little musical sequences emphasizing that New York is a melting pot with all these different cultures. And this kind of has that same vibe here, although it's the British Empire instead of New York City, of course.
Yeah, I feel like it had to have been influenced. They find this guy called the Bookman, who is an unnecessarily shady bookseller. Like, he's like a Don Corleone. He's like a gangster movie gangster, but he just sells books.
Oh, I thought that was so funny though. It's like the most innocuous thing is like, yeah, just like a librarian. He's like a guy who has books, but he's this mobster. Like a guy literally comes out and is like, you gotta come talk to the bookman, and he's got like a knife that he's holding up. It's like, oh my, not the bookman. Oh God.
And the bookman has the second half of the spell book, but it really seems to just be like 10 pages. Like his half of it is really, really thin. And it's also like a nothing section, because the previous page, the last page of what Miss Price had, says the substitutionary locomotion spell is achieved with 5 words. These words are ... And then the first half of what the bookman has says, found on the Star of Astaroth. So it's like another thing that you got to go get, because the words aren't here in the book. They're on this magical thing. It's a little like Return of Skywalker or whatever, the maligned Star Wars movie, where it's just like a thing to find a thing to find a thing.
Right. One last thing on the Bookman. So we've talked about Adam Schlesinger in the past. He's the songwriter who wrote That Thing You Do. Maybe my favorite songwriter of all time, just in the sense of what he represented of what a songwriter could be, and for the sheer number of incredible songs that he wrote. But he generally didn't actually perform his own songs. Other musicians performed his songs. But there's one clip of him performing a song that he wrote for the TV show Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. And he talks about how he wrote the song in reference to the works of a certain William Joel, who has a little known song called Piano Man. And the way that he said Piano Man, it made me think Bookman made me think of Piano Man. Like the de-emphasizing of the man part of the story. It's like he's not the book man, he's the bookman.
It's like Spider-Man. I saw a joke once that if you say it that way, it sounds like a Jewish family. We're gonna go have dinner at the Spidermans.
Or woman, we don't know.
For sure. And the Star of Astaroth is on the island of Naboombu. Okay. So, the island of Naboombu, the bookman says, but I've looked at all the charts and it does not exist. But just by coincidence, one of the kids, the youngest kid, whose name is Paul, he found a storybook in this house that they happened to visit that's all about Island of Naboombu. And the book is full of funny animal pictures, like cartoon anthropomorphic animals doing stuff, like playing sports and running around and just living on this island. And so the kid's like, well, I know about the Island of Naboombu. It's here in the book. And the bookman like froths at the mouth. He's like jumping across the table. Give me that. Like really, I think overreacting, but I guess if it's the key to this magic spell, maybe you'd be that hype about this children's book. But Price and the children and Professor Brown jump on the bed and they tell the bed they want to go to the island of Naboombu. Because remember, the spell is the bed can take you anywhere that you say with the magic bed knob.
How often do you say the phrase Island of Naboombu out loud in your life, Brian?
You know, it comes up from time to time. They warp there, and now they're doing the Mary Poppins thing. They're in the cartoon space with the talking animals. What they do in the island is the animal king, who's a lion, of course, wants to play a soccer game. And he has the Star of Astaroth around his neck. It's this amulet thing. And so there's like this 10-minute thing where it's an animal soccer game. And actually, Dan, we've talked Dingo Pictures before, how they do Disney ripoffs. You know, they got Toys Room and Prince for Egypt. That's DreamWorks. But they make these cheapo, terrible animated films, like very, very cheap. And they did one called Animal Soccer World, which is the dingoed version of this. So if you ever wanted to see a worse version of this sequence, look up Animal Soccer World.
It struck me that many of the character designs were from or matched characters in the Jungle Book.
Yes. Yes, a lot of Jungle Book, and then a lot of it would also be recycled in Robin Hood, the furry Robin Hood.
As it likes to be called.
Yes, which the explanation for these animals being here in the bookman's book is it said Astaroth was a sorcerer who lived on an island conducting experiments to make animals more human. Okay. I mean, I guess it's the Dr. Moreau thing, but it's like, why do you want that? Why do you want animals who are human? So I think Astaroth is a furry. I think he's a medieval furry.
Oh, interesting. Headcanon.
That's my thought. I think he achieved his goal.
Fan fiction.
By the way, the secretary bird, who's an assistant to the king, shows up in Mickey's Christmas Carol, dancing with the handmaiden to Maid Marian. So
Mm.
she's got the handmaiden who's a chicken, and the chicken's dancing with the secretary bird guy. So the characters lived on beyond this film in that one instance. This scene, you could cut it out. It's not very important, but it is where you get the animation. I feel like they really wanted to have that. In the end, Professor Brown is able to get the star away from the lion. The star's got the magic words on it, and they warp back to London.
The sequence where they steal it is suspenseful. I knew they were gonna get away, but like this would have scared me if I was a kid, because like they very discreetly swap the whistle because he's the referee with the medallion, and the he doesn't notice at first. The king doesn't, the lion guy, and then he notices just as they're trying to get away, but like, oh, the bed knob's not screwed on properly. We got to fix it. And there's this really cool animation shot of like depth perception changing. I don't even quite know how they animated it, of like the lion chasing after like POV at you, and as they're trying to magic LSD away.
You're right. I hadn't thought about it that way, but they gotta get all the pieces together and say the spell to get away, and the lion is raging and running towards them. And they come back, and the star like dissolves in their hands, and they say, "Oh, you can't bring objects between worlds." This is the stupidest shit because what did they just do? They just took objects between worlds, including themselves. They took the bed and they went there, and the bed was fine, and the humans were fine, and all their clothes were fine, Dan. So this makes no sense.
Brian wants the nude cut where the clothes disappear because
Yeah,
you
like
can't
like
carry
the
anything.
Terminator. Like maybe okay, maybe organic matter or whatever, living things. Who knows? But they get the Deus Ex Machina because not just is Paul's book about the island of Nabumbu, it's got a close-up picture of the Star of Astaroth with the magic words. So you really did not need to go there and have the 15 minutes of soccer playing.
Astaroth sounds a lot like Azeroth, which I think is the name of the kingdom in Warcraft when we had Will on to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. But luckily, they got the magic words now. And the magic words are Traguna, Macoides, Tricorum Satis D. That's the spell. That's substitutionary locomotion. She goes to test it, and what it does is bring inanimate objects to life. And it seems that they have to be objects that are like associated with the human form in some way, or that humans pick up and use. Either something that humans wear or something that humans pick up and use. The first thing she brings to life are Mr. Brown's shoes. And so then the shoes are like dancing around on the floor. They're moonwalking, hopping around. What do you think of these effects?
They're so good. I don't even know how they did them. I was like, it's probably a combination of whatever they were doing in Mary Poppins with like animatronics, but I just could not figure it out most of the time.
Right. And what is determined is that Miss Price has only limited control over these things. And it seems to kind of spread because then, like, a bunch of clothes come marching out of the closet. And there's like a living, hovering nightgown and like stockings, like rigid stockings walking around. It's like the perfect balance of, yeah, the effect is really convincing and it's like funny, but it's also scary. It's like I would be very alarmed if this was happening. You know, there's gloves flying through the sky that can like punch you and choke you.
All the things you knew about the world to be true are no longer true.
The nightgown flies out the window and like smothers Roddy McDowell, who's out there, who has like a whole 5 minute subplot in the restored cut.
Okay, I was wondering what his deal was. He's like this priest character who shows up for half a scene, gets scared away by like the floating underpants and runs away.
His storyline in the long version is that he is like flirting unrequitedly with Miss Price.
Gotcha.
He's like sniffing around after her and she's not into it.
The thing that was really blowing my mind about this stuff flying around is the shadows. It's like it's not just a green screened effect. Like these are really in the space, or else they are like so well simulated in the space they even thought of a way to get the shadows and like stuff like that in there. It just I don't know.
Yeah, it's some really good kind of puppetry that I don't know how they're doing a lot of it.
Hmm.
And the next thing that happens, though, so this is considered like a half successful dry run, that they brought the stuff to life, couldn't really control it. What do we do next? And what happens next is the Germans invade. Well, it's like this commando raid, it turns out, but it's like, a couple dozen Nazis in like little pontoon boats. Well, they come up in a U-boat and then they get in these dinghies and they come up on the shore in the dark of night, and they're cutting the phone lines. And this village where Price lives is on the coast, right on the coast. So like Cliffs of Dover or something. These commandos come up and they use the Price house as a command post. And at this point, Professor Brown is like waffling on, does he want to be part of this little impromptu family that has formed? Or does he want to keep being like a drifter, I guess? Does he want to keep not being nailed down?
Yeah, one thing that we didn't say in Mary Poppins is that there's like a couple of suggestions that like, oh, Dick Van Dyke has a thing for Mary Poppins, and that's like it's almost like they have a romantic history that he's trying to rekindle, but it leaves it entirely as subtext or like inference.
Right.
And
And in Saving Mr. Banks, Emma Thompson is like, there cannot be romance between Bert and Mary Poppins. And so they had to just like get as close to that line as they could without crossing it.
yeah, I think it works pretty well. And then here we inevitably go towards the romance. I mean, it's kind of intuitively where you'd expect the story to go, but it makes me appreciate that Mary Poppins didn't have it. I feel like I don't know how much it actually enhances the story, but I don't know. I guess like little romantic elements to stories are pretty common in this because it's not just like is he going to be part of the family, but that's like him tying himself to the Angela Lansbury character.
Yes. So it's more direct in that they are romantically linked, interested in forming a relationship. It's kind of unusual because they're older than you would see in many romance stories. I don't know. They're like 40 something.
Right.
So it's like Summertime, or what was that other movie that we watched? Brief Encounter.
Yeah, yeah.
And in the animated sequence, the best part of the animated sequence, the part that I think is like, I'm actually really glad that this is here, is they start out under sea. Like the bed comes crashing down and then it's under the water, and they sing this song called Beautiful Briny Sea. And like part of it is that Brown and Price are flirting with each other.
Hmm.
But it's the backdrop of this dancing contest between fish. And there are dancing lobsters in this number. And this was an inspiration. One of the inspirations for my thesis film was just this like one measure that you see dancing lobsters, and they click their claws like castanets. And there's also, so you get like the measure of the lobster dance, a measure of electric eel dance, a measure of flounder dance. And so it's all these anatomically odd fish and dancing. And with the Sherman Brothers music, I really like it. I'm glad that that's there. And because in this moment, Mr. Brown is kind of off away from them, he also discovers that this invasion is happening, and he has a little bit more freedom of movement. Price and the kids are sequestered. The Germans like take them and lock them in this military history museum that we had seen before. It's like where she picked up the kids at the start, this little military museum that's in the town, and they're locked in there. Brown finds his way to them, sneaks in by casting the turn into a rabbit spell, thus proving that anybody can say the words if they believe in them, Dan. He does have to like convince himself that it could work, and then it does. Mr. Brown says, well, what if you use the substitutionary locomotion spell again? And she says, oh, well, we don't know. I couldn't control it very well. And what do I even have to cast it on? And then they look around themselves, and they're in this room that's full of suits of armor and like ancient weapons and warfare material. And she casts the spell. This might be my favorite scene in a movie because the spell brings the suits of armor to life, and just the way that it is staged is so cool. Let's talk about it, Dan. Like, what were you feeling when I know I've hyped this just beyond believability, but when these things started to happen, what was the vibe? What were you feeling? What were you thinking?
Yeah, so for context, you had chosen as favorite musical sequences in a film. You had put, I can't remember where you had this, but you had this up there. The clip that I had watched was the first time the things come to life, and it's not actually the suits of armor. And then I came to understand that like it's kind of reprised, or like they use themes from the music for like the actual battle, but it's not like a singing number in the same way that it is for that sequence. So I either watched it once or I didn't watch it. And if I did watch it, I was like, just to like see what it actually was. I wasn't really like engaged with it. So I was coming in pretty fresh on this, even though I knew it was coming. The way it builds to it, and it grows and grows. So it starts with like military drums drumming, and except they're drumming themselves. And then, oh, now like military swords are swinging and bugles, and like it's like a whole military come to life. And it's like, but it's not just World War II. That's kind of like what makes it magical, is like it's throughout this whole, it's like a military history. So you have all these different types of like war creatures coming to life, and they all have this ridiculous effect that is just, I don't even again know how they did it. Of it looks like there are not people in these various controlling these weapons or in these suits of armor marching, and but they are marching and behaving as if it is people actually operating them. And so there's Nazis like shooting at this army of like suits of armor that are donk, 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 and like swinging swords in the sky. Oh, and now like Angela Lansbury has become a military witch too. So she's flying through the sky. And it's on this against these matte paintings. And there's all these like funny little effects like, oh, they shoot the hat off and the hat goes flying off, but the thing keeps marching, because it's not like if you got shot in the head in real life, you'd fall down. He's just a floating suit of armor. So the hat can go swinging every which way, and the suit just keeps marching. And it's got like 100 little different inspired touches that it's like they really thought through, and then not just thought through, but like went there. They're like, oh, we have an idea. We're going to bring this idea to life. And there's like 150 in this like 5-minute sequence of all these funny little things. Like, oh, he like knocks down the first half of the suit of armor, but the pants are still sitting there. So the pants can like kick him in the butt after he's like, oh, I got you. Except no, the legs are still there. And just like all these little bits. And there's horses, and there's with the horse armor and stuff like disassembles and reassembles, and arrows are flying through the air. It's like a monster mash. That's what you use to describe the phrase in Cabin in the Woods, except it's like a monster mash, but it's like a military history monster mash.
Right. Yeah. No, it appeals to me in much the same way that the climax of Cabin in the Woods does, where it's been suggested that there are these things out there, and then it comes together just all of a sudden. It's like the vent is released, the valve is released, and all the stuff steams through all at once in a bigger way than you could have imagined. But yeah, from the moment that the drums come to life, the fanfare, trumpets snap and play themselves, and like the banners blow in the breeze that isn't there, it's impressive and it's menacing. And then the visors fall down on the helmets, they clam down, and the suits climb off their pedestals. Then it goes to the German commander, and he's got his like orders that he's barking to his underlings. I really like that it does that, cuts to them doing their thing, and then you see like from a distance the armor coming in. And it's like a zombie movie or something because it's this inexorable march of this horde, and you see the fear on the soldiers because they're humans, they're just people, and then they're up against this indomitable magic. So they really can't do anything. They're firing their guns and it's going through the armor because armor is not designed to stop bullets, but it doesn't matter. And yes, just like you said, it's armor from and uniforms from all these different periods throughout British history, including like the English Civil War. So it's like both sides of that, but they're fighting together because this is all of England against the invaders. Very cool and funny and scary. And throughout it all, they're chanting this like disembodied voice chanting the Draguna Macoides Dracorum Sadisti. I really like, I know I can't be objective. It got into me too early, but really, really like this. And like the colonel is standing strong and like telling everybody not to be a coward. You got to be Deutsche Soldaten. But then this executioner suit that's like 7 feet tall comes out of the bush, like this thing that we hadn't even seen yet, and it's scary as shit. And you just see the reaction shot of like he's pooping his pants, and they all run. And you got the like dozen hovering horse armor that's disembodied too, and it's like firing lances after them, and just really crazy. And the Germans get in their little boats and they're running back to the U-boat. But before they leave, they set this explosive charge that blows Price off the broom, and she like comes plummeting down, crashes through her house. It rips up the workshop where she has all her materials for spell casting. When her like connection to the armor is disrupted, all the magic ebbs away, and all the suits deflate, and they
like balloons.
They like wrinkle down on the ground. It's cool and it's creepy and it's just like the perfect ending. I like movies and stories where when the wizard is like dead and done, all the magic ebbs away. This happened in Merlin as well, but it wasn't as interesting as this. This was much cooler.
The fact that it kind of takes place on this beach, at least like the final bit of it. I don't know too much about military history, but that just makes me think of D-Day. It was almost like a reverse D-Day. It's like you know how Inglourious Bastards made like an alternate history of the death of Hitler. This was like an alternate wizard history of the opposite of D-Day. So like it's the Nazis who are running away from the beach instead of the heroes marching up the beach or something like that. I don't know.
Right. It's a counterfactual. If you read up on it, there was like a plan to do a German invasion, but it was only like hypotheticals. Like the Battle of Britain was all in the air, and they never really stood a chance of winning it. At least that's the frame. The Germans, it didn't go. It didn't go to the place where they actually put Operation Sea Lion into practice. That's what it was called. Seelöwe is like that. Those were the schematics for landing on the British beaches, and it didn't go that way. It's funny, the home guard comes out that we saw at the beginning of the movie, and they're like taking pot shots at the Germans down on the beach as the Germans are already running away. And then the old men are like, "We did it! We scared them off!" And so then the headline in the newspaper the next morning is like exchange of fire between purported, like something may have happened, but they don't know the full story.
Right. And it's got this element of like legend to it, and it kind of mirroring some of the feeling of Mary Poppins, where like this is almost what you imagine war to be like, is like all these marching things. Like obviously it wouldn't in real life be disembodied horses and stuff, but like just this inexorable force of like pure aggression coming down on you. I was thinking a little bit of like this is like a way a kid might think of war to some extent.
The major goal that Miss Price had is achieved, and her magic stuff has been exploded. So the kids and Professor Brown ask, "Well, what's next? What do you do now?" And she basically says, "I'm done. No need for me anymore." Despite the fact that it's like 1940, there's 5 years left in this war. There's like massive atrocities are going to happen, continue to happen. And it's like, well, maybe you should continue to contribute to the war effort.
All you got to do is say words. Just go say the words, lady. Nah, I beat the Nazis.
Yeah, kept him out of England, and that's enough, I guess. So Professor Brown goes and joins the army, I guess. But I mean, how old is he? Yeah, I would say he's like 42. It's like he should join the Home Guard.
That surprised me. Yeah.
You know, he's not that much younger than those guys. But he marches off, and Miss Price decides to keep the kids. There was a question along the way of she didn't want the kids, then she got the kids, now she likes the kids. And Paul holds up the bed knob that's still magic and says, maybe adventures still lie ahead. But that's Bedknobs and Broomsticks. So we did it. We watched two, we talked two, and now Dan, is it good though?
So Is It Good is our signature section where we each give the movie a rating on our 8-point goodness scale, ranging from very not good, which is a 1 out of 8, to our masterpiece rating toward a good, which is an 8 out of 8. So I guess I will go first. Is Mary Poppins good? So I'm sure you could tell I think highly of this one quite a bit. I was trying to think of what makes it work, and it's just like it works because it works. Like I don't know how to say it otherwise. It's like Disney had the magic touch, and when he was giving it his full attention, he wasn't the director, he wasn't the writer, but like assuming that you give him like the art credit for the artistic vision and like kind of keeping the whole thing together, it's just got everything in just the right proportion, and the timing of things works, and somehow it manages to like do stuff that I sometimes find annoying but make it work. And I know some of that is like nostalgia and like, oh, this is just one of the classics, and because it's a classic, it's a classic, it's like a tautology at that point. But like, I don't know, I just was so charmed by it. The only thing that I really have to say against it is that it's too long. And not just that it's too long, but like the way that it's long feels long to me because it's got like this exuberant energy that kind of morphs into something more pensive and dark. Honestly, just when it pivots from like, hey, the kids are out on the town with Mary Poppins to like, oh, well, I guess you got to go spend the day with your dad. And it like that's like close to the halfway point, maybe a little past actually, that's probably maybe the 2/3 point. But even from there on out, it's like it's kind of lost some of its punch. But man, talk about some of the best songs. Just 10 out of 10, banger after banger. All, as you've said, all presented so wonderfully. So last time I watched it, I would have given it a 7. I think I am just going to go ahead and give it a toward a good masterpiece rating. Maybe, I don't know. It's like one of those movies that's right on the line. And sometimes I feel like if you're not sure, then it isn't, But like I kind of felt that way about When Harry Met Sally. Is like something was holding me back just a little bit. I don't know. I was really feeling this time the way that the structure actually works to make the ending more powerful, and the way that like the thematic currents, it's not just silly episodes. Like they're all kind of philosophically tied together, and that makes the whole product so much more effective and just a really special and just an encapsulation of childhood imagination and the Disney magic, and why do we go to Fantasyland and use our imagination and live with this life with a spring in our step when it doesn't empirically make anything better, but like ineffably does make things better, and just kind of rendering that so well. You said, is it a kids movie? I, I don't think I would call it a kids movie. I would call it a family movie because some of it works. Most of it works well for kids. Most of it works well for adults, but all of it works for everyone to some extent, like different parts of it are going to call more to different people. And as you age, there's going to be things that you like more or less than you liked as a kid. It's just such an achievement on every axis: casting, music, writing, the production, the colors. They don't make them like they used to, and it just pops off the screen. It's just so joyful. So I'm gonna barely give it a masterpiece rating, Brian. What about you?
Nice. I'm going to come in at a 7 out of 8, exceptionally good. The structural wonkiness drags it down just a hair for me. The question of like, well, wait a minute, who is the main character? It's just kind of an atypical structure and pacing. But I wouldn't say that it's too long. I actually was really surprised when I saw that it was 2.5 hours or 2 hours, 20 minutes. It doesn't feel that long to me as it's going. I'm always engaged, and the songs eat up a lot of time, but they're so good that you like don't notice. So the Jolly Holiday plus Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious is probably like 15 minutes long. I don't know. It's a chunk, but it's earlier than I remembered, and it goes by fast. So you've got like scene after scene where that's kind of the case, and then the heavier stuff at the end, which is still just so evocative. So I think it is about the change of heart that the dad has, and it works. So good movie, exceptionally good.
All right, I guess that brings us to Bedknobs and Broomsticks. I'm torn on this one. It's definitely in the positive end. And I think it suffers a little bit from being compared to Mary Poppins. And as I noted, some of that's, well, I was going to say some of that's not its fault, but it kind of is its fault because that's how it was designed. But some of it's not that fault in the sense that there wasn't necessarily a reason that like you have to see Mary Poppins first. You have to buy into the worship that Mary Poppins gets. And then, oh, Bedknobs and Broomstick is like the lesser spin-off, like the leftovers, or I don't know what you'd call it. Because there are things about it that are very inspired, and it's kind of doing a slight twist on some of the competing ideas of Mary Poppins, but in its own unique way, in this unique setting, but still kind of has a tone that's very clearly trying to mimic Mary Poppins. But like, man, the effects are so cool, particularly the way that it builds to that climax is just so satisfying. But the way that Mary Poppins, everything just fits. Some of the things feel a little out of whack to me. The structure bothers me a little bit more, where it's like one chase after another. Like, oh, but now you need this thing. Oh, but oh, now we got to go with this other thing. But oh, it was there all along. And it's like, okay, we're just spinning wheels here. Like, we just wanted to have another thing happen. Whereas I don't ever get that feeling in Mary Poppins. And like some of the cloying whimsy just doesn't land for me quite as much. But it's still got fun music, and it's still got, they don't make them like they used to energy to it that I really admire, and it's beautiful. It's like I feel that it's a 5, but I also feel that it's better than like the Darby O'Gill, which I think I also gave a 5. And the way that it ends so satisfyingly, I'll just let it inch into 6 territory, but it's kind of right on the 5-6 line for me, Brian.
Cool. I think that's very fair. I am going to give it a 7 as well for different reasons. And I'm sure a huge part of it is that I watched it so much as a very young kid. But I am going to attempt to defend it. I mean, it's got one of my favorite opening credits sequences. It's got one of my favorite arguably ending sequences. I didn't include it in my top 5 just because I've talked people's ears off about this. So I'm glad that I was finally able to devote this episode to putting it to rest. But that battle is so, so cool. And it's funny and it's scary and music is a part of it and just the staging of it. There is a shot in this scene where so we've had this first wave of armor march out and the gunfire against the armor. But then it cuts to like an extreme wide shot and it pans and it shows the rows of armor going back towards this matte painting. And the matte painting goes on and on and on to infinity in the background. And there's like in the painting, there's this little hill. And on top of the hill, you can see that there's the little castle that the museum is in. And it's like, how was all of that in there? How was this infinite army in the little, like, booth-sized, turret? I guess there's some, like, TARDIS magic going on or something, or, like, loaves and fishes, because there's just this throng. But that pan shot gives me chills every time. It's like, this is just an unstoppable force. So just mostly by the merits of that ending, honestly, is what holds this up. But the lyrics are good, the melodies are good, the production design is cool throughout. It's not as visually memorable as Mary Poppins is, but I think it works for its own reasons. The conflict is clearer. I think what would really help this is if you just nix the Naboombu stuff. It's just like cut that out because it's like a dog leg. It's like a just a bump in the road that doesn't need to be there. It's here to pad the length. Get that out and you have a better film. But I mean, I like Beautiful Briny. I like the dancing fish, but it doesn't a arc make.
When they go underwater at Naboomba, I was thinking like, oh, it's like the Goongas when they go underwater in Naboo.
The Naboombas. It's gonna be great.
Literally War and Peace when those armies, those suits of armor are marching out, Brian.
Man, now I gotta know if George Lucas saw this. Okay, well, we did it, Dan. What did we say last week? Musicals are long slogs. So what it really comes down to is we're talking two movies, two 2 hour plus movies each week. So we're gonna have long episodes, but that's okay.
As Donald Glover says, that's hip hop, man. That's hip hop. No, that's unrelated. Two last things. One is so years and years ago, when I was active on Twitter, John Mulaney tweeted, "This is my favorite YouTube video of all time." And he tweeted a link to this dumb 30-second video of word art with this like weirdly intense background music of somebody saying, "I met Julie Andrews," and then a picture of Julie Andrews. And it always makes me laugh thinking about that video. Whenever I think of Julie Andrews, just something about this little music video made me laugh. So I'll drop that one in the Discord. You can come find us on thegoodsfilmpodcast.com. One other thing is, Brian, my daughter and I have written 2 chapter books together. And
Oh,
in
wow.
the second one of the scenes in the book is an evil witch makes some suits of armor come to life with a magic potion. And I was like, oh, it's kind of like our Princess Gracie book when they were doing that. So I'll also drop a link to our books on the Discord.
Oh, cool. I also think about in the last Harry Potter movie, at the big battle, Professor McGonagall brings the suits of armor in the school to life. And she even says, "I've always wanted to use that spell," or something.
Oh.
And I had to wonder.
Well, you are probably wondering, what are we going to be discussing next week? And I have an answer for you, Brian. So
I was wondering that, Dan.
in week 1, we discussed the 1930s and the 1950s. This week, we discussed the 1960s and the 1970s. Next week, we are going to be discussing the 1940s and the 2020s. So February is not just my theme month. It's not just dueling musical decades month, but it is also Black History Month as celebrated in the United States. And so I'm gonna be asking you to watch, Brian, two movies, neither of which I've actually seen. One of which is called Cabin in the Sky. It came out in 1943, and it was not directed by a black director. It was actually directed by the guy who did An American in Paris, but most of the cast is black, and it kind of, I think, interrogates the black experience to some extent. And then I want to discuss the 2023 film adaptation of the stage musical The Color Purple, which is one of those things where it was like it was a book and then it was a movie and then it was a musical and then it was a movie. It's like Mean Girls also had a similar path. We can talk a little bit about that, but it's called The Color Purple. It's from 2023, and that is also mainly a black cast and about the black experience in America as a sort of cinematic musical. So 80 years apart, we'll see what changed and what didn't change. And I thought it would be appropriate to do something for Black History Month as well, too. So that's what we will be discussing next week, Brian.
Okay, cool. Good way to tie in decades pretty far apart. So I'm looking forward to it. I've heard of Cabin in the Sky, comes up in film history discussion, so excited to check that one off. Both will be new to me as well. Last thing to say about the broader Mary Poppins franchise. In Mary Poppins Returns 2018, there was a role at the end that was very clearly written with Julie Andrews in mind. Oh, we'll have Julie Andrews come back, who is also still alive. She's 90 now. She has like an exchange with Mary Poppins, played by Emily Blunt in the sequel. And Julie Andrews said that she didn't want to like draw attention away from Emily Blunt, didn't want to like steal any thunder. And so, guess who played the part, Dan?
Who?
Angela Lansbury.
Oh, that's kind of fitting.
And so it really is, it's like not just a part two, but it's kind of like a part three. It's like capper on Poppins and Broomsticks.
When you say either Mary or Poppins on their own, but particularly Poppins, it sounds so funny to me. It's like one of those names that you need to say the first name and the last name together. Like we went to high school with a guy named Matt Hole. Hole was his last name, Matt was his first name, but you couldn't call him Matt, and you wouldn't just say, "Hey, Hole." No, that doesn't sound right. It's got to be the whole name, Matt Hole. So Mary Poppins is the same way to me. It's got to be both of them.
It's a veritable mat hole. Sneak out of your house and go into a mat hole.
Oh, God. All right.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Brian. Talk to you later. Enjoy Disney World and say hi to your brother for me and your parents, Brad, father of Gauntly. Happy birthday to him.
Well, thanks. I'll pass that along, and enjoy, everybody, your spoonful of sugar to help the medicine go down.